If you couldn't tell by the bats in the background, it's October, which means it's time to draw spooky things. And what's scarier than our own real-life fears? So today I'm taking 6 of the most common phobias and turning them into one terrifying monster. I'm covering real-life phobias here, so if any of these things bother you, consider this your content warning. I've listed all the phobias I used in the description, so you can check that out if you need to. Alright, let's get started. For my monster's head, I chose to do Thanatophobia, which is the fear of death, which I'm representing with a skull because it's a classic. And I gave it some snake-like qualities, like fangs and a hood, because my next phobia is going to be Ophidiophobia, the fear of snakes. So I gave it a really long, lanky tail, because the longer the snake, the creepier it is, right? And speaking of creepy, I couldn't leave out this phobia, the creepiest, crawliest of all, Arachnophobia, the fear of spiders. So I gave my monster 8 scary spider legs to complete the look. But I didn't want to do just normal spider legs, so that's where our next phobia comes in handy. Trypanophobia, the fear of needles or injections. I made the ends of its spider legs needles. Can you imagine the sound this thing makes when it comes towards you? Because I can, and I don't think it would be pleasant. I personally don't have any of these phobias. Well, except for death, I guess, but I think everyone's a little afraid of that. But if a monster like this really existed, I think I would have a new phobia. With the needle legs just about done, it's time to move on to my favorite phobia. Trypophobia, the fear of small holes. This one's an interesting one, because I didn't really know that this was a thing for a while. Until I went to college, and I met someone there who had a fear of sponges. Since we had to use sponges in art class pretty often, they hated touching them. And it wasn't the sponges themselves, it was all the little holes in it freaked them out. So that's how I first found out about trypophobia. Anyway, it's on to color. While not officially on my phobias list, I'm going to give an honorable mention to nyctophobia, fear of the dark, by giving this monster really dark colors. I also want to use this blood red as an accent color. I'm also going to add this fleshy color to the underside. And of course, death has to be represented by some kind of bone color. I was wondering, is it the legs that make spiders so creepy? Because of the way they move? Would they still be scary without legs? Follow-up question, would it be scary to see just some detached legs but no spider? Like, you know it's still crawling around nearby somewhere. If you didn't have a fear of snakes, but the snakes had spider legs, would that be as scary as a spider? I'm just trying to figure out the leg-to-scare ratio here, as I shade in blood red. Honestly, it looks pretty cool like this, but I am going to put on a multiply layer, just to give it some more depth and dimension. And all these little holes do take me forever to shade in. And I gotta be honest, even though these holes don't really bother me, looking up reference for how they should look did make me a little nauseous. I think it's worse when it's on skin. Like, coral and sponges are fine, but beyond natural occurrences, I'd rather not spend time looking at that. I did put some snake scale texture on the snake part of the body, so I want to add some more texture up here too, just to make it look extra gross and grungy. And since this is going to take me an hour, I will speed through it a little bit. There we go, now it looks inflamed and extra nasty. I wanted to add some kind of lighting and texture to the skull, even though it doesn't really need it, but I am really happy with how it turned out. And keeping in line with the red color scheme, I'm going to make these stand out a little more by making them red too, and adding some bright red highlights. I think it helps show the texture of the scales a little bit better. At this point, you may be thinking, that's only 5 phobias. And yeah, I saved number 6 for the rendering stage. So here it is, Hemophobia, the fear of blood. I wonder if adding this makes the trypophobia worse. I wanted to make sure the drips were following along the curve of the body. And I decided to have only the bottom ones dripping, because I think having them all full of blood would be way too much, and would cover up most of the holes anyway. I mean, you get the gist of it. But I had to lean into this phobia, and for that the blood has to look fresh and really wet. Which sounds gross, because it is gross. And here's my finished monster, made out of 6.5 phobias. If you're counting the whole dark thing. I know this was kind of a short one, but hopefully it was still interesting. This was a really cool project, and I do have fun making monsters like this. So happy Halloween, everybody. Until next time.